This is Terry Winograd, computer science professor at Stanford University, and depending on your perspective, he is either the best PhD advisor ever or the worst PhD advisor ever. Hi, this is Jeff Goldfinger. Welcome to the STEM Signal, where we help the STEM educated increase their career signal above the workplace noise. Now, let's get down to business. This is episode 7, and in the prior 3 episodes, we went over 6 specific speech acts, words that not only convey information, they perform action as well. Assertions, assessments, declarations, offers, promises, and requests. And with the help of Terry Winograd, we're going to put all the pieces together and figure out how to use them in our everyday conversations for action. So let me get back to our story about Terry.
Explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
All right, so there is too much for detail. So let me shorten it by telling you about Sergey Brin and Larry Page, who you probably famously recognize as the co-founders of Google. Well, back in the mid-90s, they were students at Stanford as well, and Terry was working on his PhD under Terry Winograd. And he brought him this idea. He said, I'd really like to explore with Sergey this idea of cataloging web search and analyzing it. And according to Larry's own words, he received the best advice ever to continue that project. A few years later, the 3 of them, along with a 4th co-author, published this paper in the IEEE Bulletin of the Technical Committee on Data Engineering, which described the PageRank algorithm, the search engine for Google. Well, shortly after that, they were offered over $1 million for their algorithm, and Larry asked Terry Winograd what he should do. And Terry, in his own words, said, it was the worst advice I've ever given a PhD candidate because I told him to sell the company for $1 million. I had never heard of such funds given to a PhD candidate, so of course he should go for it. Well, thankfully, the 2 of them didn't sell their company for $1 million because now Alphabet is worth over $1 trillion. But the work I want to talk about that Terry did actually occurred almost 15 years earlier when he met Chilean exile Fernando Flores, who came to the U.S. after spending 3 years in prison as a result of the Pinochet coup in Chile. The 2 of them worked collaboratively together to understand the role of artificial intelligence and cognition in humans. And in 1986, they published their seminal book, Understanding Computers and Cognition. Wonderful book if you get a chance. It has been continuously in print since then. On page 65, there is a diagram that I like to call a page that will live in dignity. This is figure 5.1, what they called the basic conversation for action. I'm going to go through the basic conversation for action and show you how it works in the workplace. So I've color-coded my state diagram using purple for customer and blue for provider. And I use the term customer in the broadest possible sense. Could be an external customer, somebody who buys your product, or an internal customer, your boss, your peer, your superior, your subordinate. Okay, again, broadest possible interpretation of customer. So let's say my internal customer, my boss, makes a request. Hey, Jeff, I want you to write some code that will allow me to interactively display a conversation for action, and I need it by next Wednesday. And I promise to fulfill on my boss's request. In the last episode on offers, requests, and promises, I said an offer and request usually come hand in hand, and it doesn't matter which one comes first. So I could have done it the completely other way. I could have gone to my boss and said, hey, I want to write some code that allows us to interactively display a conversation for action, and I can do it by next Wednesday. And the boss can accept that offer, and we're off to the races. So sometime after that, I go ahead and complete the work, and I assert to my boss that the code is ready now for testing. And the boss looks it over, declares, yep, I agree with you, Jeff. And we have our mutually agreed upon conditions of satisfaction have been met. It's a win-win for both of us. But there's an alternative situation. What happens when I turn the code in? There's an assessment made by the boss that it is not quite ready yet. So he sends me back to do some more work on it. Now, that could be obviously multiple times, depending on how long it takes to get it to a point where the customer makes a declaration that he or she is satisfied with the product. All right, so this is the clean way to do it. Now we have some other nuances. So let's go all the way back to step 2. After a request or an offer is made, what if somebody says no? We call that a decline. Now, you'll notice I didn't use the word rejection. Rejection carries too much emotional baggage. So let's just use the word decline. And in which case, both parties withdraw their request or their offer, depending on which order it came in, and they walk off cleanly, no harm, no foul. Well, there's another alternative back in step 2. What if the request is made by my boss? Hey, I'd like you to get it done by next Wednesday. And I say, boss, I can clearly write the code. I just can't do it by Wednesday. Can you give me until Friday to do it? Okay, so the counteroffer comes in, and depending on who made the counteroffer, then again, we're in a situation of a promise and an acceptance. And so now we're good to go. Or, just like we could do back at the beginning of step 2, we could decline the counteroffer. And the counteroffer can be countered again, and it can go back and forth a few times. Or in the case of my cousin Vinny, he articulates a situation that you might find someday yourself.
I believe you and Lisa played a game of pool for $200, which she won. I'm here to collect.
How about if I just kick your ass?
Oh, a counter offer. Let me see. This is a tough decision you give me here. Get my ass kicked to collect $200. Nah, I think I'll just go with the 200.
So now where we are is what happens after you both agree, all parties agree, the offer's been accepted, the promise has been made. Then what? What if you renege? What's a renege? A renege is when you make a promise and you don't fulfill. An example of that might be, I promise to deliver the code and then I never do it. And I never give my boss a heads up, or maybe I tell him too late. Like on Tuesday night, I say, hey boss, I know I promised you the code by tomorrow, but it's just not going to get done. I've stopped working on it. I'm on to something else now. Okay. So in that case, my identity is going to be harmed for the future. When you renege on a promise that you've made, and again, this is not just in the workplace, right? How many of us have made promises to our kids to show up for their soccer match or school play, and we've had to renege? Well, again, this harms your identity in that case. All right, there is an alternative to that. It's a little nuanced. And so let's say, well, I'll give you a real example. I was once working with a client. I was their proposal manager for a government proposal in the U.S., and the proposal was due on Wednesday. And around Friday or Saturday, I found out that my father, who had been ill for a couple years, had been officially entered into hospice and he had stopped eating. And so we knew the end was near. So instead of completely reneging, I called up a buddy of mine, a colleague who I'd worked with in the past, and then I called the client and I said, look, I'm going to have to withdraw from my promise to be your proposal manager, but I have a stand-in, Michael, who is really proficient at this stuff. I am sure you'll be happy. He will be able to take it from here. Now, it's a withdrawal, not quite a renege, because I made arrangements to make sure the work was done, but it did in fact harm my identity. And this will happen to you as well. And that's why I color code it as a cautionary tale, because depending on how much trust you've built up, turns out that was my first time with that particular client, so there was really little way to recover. I did have another situation where I had to back out as a proposal manager from another client, but I'd worked with them for many years and they were satisfied that I had taken care of their best interest and I had given them the news about it long in advance, so they knew it was coming. All right, so that completes the discussion of a basic conversation for action. To finish it up, I found a really interesting tall tale, perhaps, I don't know, from Nobel laureate and physicist Richard Feynman from Caltech University. He talks about a bureaucratic date which will live in absurdity.
The guy in charge, he was a science teacher or something. He came around and he was from PCC. And that's just what you said. He asked me if I'd give a talk there. And I said, well, that's the city college. He says, yeah. I said, I'll be glad to do it. And he was going to offer me some money. There was some money. He was going to offer me some money. It was going to be $50 or something. Nice. This is nice. I said, but it doesn't bother me, the money. I said, there's only one rule, one condition on the whole thing, that I don't have to sign my name more than 13 times. And that includes the check. And he laughs. Ha, 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 how absurd. Okay? Then it starts. I swear. I didn't expect it would happen either. I picked the number out of a hat, but I knew there's lots of paper. So first, I have to sign something that I'm loyal to the government, or else I can't talk in the city cop. And I have to sign a double, okay? And then I have to sign some other kind of a release of the city. I can't remember what. And pretty soon, the numbers are beginning to climb up. At first, he's laughing. Then he begins to get a little bit nervous, you see, that he's going to ask me for more than 13 signatures. Some kind of a paper I had to sign that I was suitably employed as a professor. There was all kinds of things to ensure, of course, since it's a city thing, that no jerk at the other end was hiring his wife or a friend to come and not even give the lecture. And now it's coming near 11, 12, you know? And it got to a position where I think I had signed 12 times or something. I had one more for the check. And then it was the last one that he needed, and he came really sweating. He was very upset. He cannot give me the money unless I sign something that I really gave the talk. I said, but you were there. You heard the talk. If I sign that, I can't sign the check. If I can't sign the check, I can't get any money. So he says, look, he says, this is kind of a silly thing. I said, no, it's not a silly thing. I said, it was an arrangement we made in the beginning, and you accepted it. He says, I've been working very hard. I've been calling all around. I've been trying everything. They tell me it's absolutely impossible. You can't get your money or That's all right. I won't take any money. Well, that might help. But I hate to do this to you. I said, it's all right. As you made a deal. This is it. And I just did a crazy guy. You are. I am a crazy guy. You made a deal. He says, yeah, okay. But I said, it's all right with me. I said, I don't need the money. It's okay. Don't worry. It's all right. Then he calls me up. They can't not give you the money. Yeah. They have already earmarked the money, and they've got it set. And you've given over the form, and the whole thing is they can't. They have to, you know. They couldn't take it back. There was no miscellaneous pot that you could say the money that this man deserves that we're supposed to pay him, but he won't sign for. There was no such a pot. So they went crazy. I said, well, that's all right. If they have to give me the money, let them give me the money. And we went on. It was a long time. It was a very great difficulty. I don't know how he straightened it out. He finally did give some crazy way in which I got the money and signed the 13th signature to cash the check.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess I'm just mischievous. I just love to do that to people. Well, especially when they're so gleefully happy that they're not going to cost 13 signatures. Ha, ha, ha.
What a hilariously absurd story, yeah? All right, so that completes our basic conversation for action. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I promise to read them and respond. In the meantime, thank you for listening. This is a new channel, so subscribe and like if you do. But to truly increase your STEM signal among your colleagues, share this with others you care about. If you found this valuable and helpful, share the link with others, tell them about the channel, or in the words of that great sage, Jerry Maguire,
Me help you.
thank you for listening, and until next time, keep your STEM signal above the noise.
Let's get